fight's not over.
Stop the fight!
People.
Everybody, I come here for everybody. Kill everybody. I'm the champ. I'm the king. Kill everybody. Ah!
Alright guys, welcome back to Broke Bets. It's Lane here, and I got my guy in the ones and twos. Cars, what's up, dude?
Yeah, what's going on, my man? Super excited for this card, as most people are. So let's get right into it.
Yeah, card of the year. So first fight, we got Yamato Nishikawa versus Magomed Mustafaev. Big age gap here. We're looking at 19, almost 20, versus 34 years old, but also a big layoff here for Magomed. But given the layoff, I'm still going to stick with the older, more experienced fighter here. He's faced some high-level people, got really good speed in his attacks, and I think he's just going to be way bigger than Yamato in this fight. He's kind of got a build just like Islam Makhachev, and I can't really see Yamato, who is more of a wrestler, implementing his wrestling. I've also seen him get knocked down before in a couple of his fights, and I think that a speedy striker like Magomed will put him down, and I'm thinking of Caio in the round one here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Magomed's thick for that weight class. He has a 2.5-year layoff, and then Yamamoto just fought last month, actually. So short turnaround for him, making his UFC debut. We gotta go with the veteran and Magomed.
Yeah, I don't see much value on this fight just in terms of skill level and stuff. I know Magomed's a big favorite here. It's like minus 500 or something, but he does have a win over Fiziev. It was a little bit of a one-shot knockout, spinning back kick to Fiziev's face. And he actually had some competitive moments with Kevin Lee, but overall, he should be a lot better the fighter here, but his inactivity is scary for if you're betting on him. But yeah. You like round one knockout as well?
Yeah, we can go with that.
Roger. Round one knockout Magomed. Okay, for the next fight, we have Lina Lansberg versus Karol Rosa. Lina Lansberg, old. And Karol Rosa, younger fighter, hungrier here. She's coming off a loss against Sarah McMahon, but Sarah McMahon can out-wrestle a lot of people. She was a silver medalist in the Olympics for wrestling. And also, Lina Lansberg lost against her as well a while ago. Karol Rosa feels like the pretty obvious pick here in by decision. Her last 5 wins are by decision, and Lina Lansberg's last 5 fights went to decision. More in there as well that have gone to decision. For Karol Rosa's game, I think the step-in knees, the clinch knees, she's very good at. Lina Lansberg's kind of inactive on the feet and kind of just a basic bitch, to say the least. Yeah, Karol Rosa should make pretty easy work of this one. Over 2.5 will probably be a super inflated line, like minus 300, 350. Maybe a parlay piece, maybe not. But Karol Rosa should make this look pretty easy here. Okay, for the next fight, we have Armen Petrosyan versus AJ Dobson. This is going to be a competitive fight, and this is going to be a good fight to watch with 2 talented strikers. Also, with what their records say is no experience. I actually believe these guys are pretty experienced fighters for the amount of total fights they have. Petrosyan, very good length in his striking. When it comes to grappling, he's not the best, but he does have a very good get-up game. And I think he will be able to get up if he ever did get taken down. I don't expect AJ Dobson to do that. Came back on Gregory Rodriguez when Gregory Rodriguez got super tired just trying to put him away in the first 2 rounds. And a good contender series knockout. He's had a good run of fights here. We're going to stick with him here. I mean, how do you like this fight to play out, Carson?
Yeah, I think it'll obviously be a striking match. Both these fighters had tough matchups in their last fights with more wrestlers, or grapplers, I should say, being the matchup against But this should be a striking fight, and I think I like it to go the distance, actually.
I really do too. I'm looking down here. I'll scroll down. The world's picking Petrosyan by knockout. I'm actually kind of surprised by that. He doesn't have a knockout in his last. I guess the Contender Series one, less countable though, in my opinion. AJ Dobson just came off a fight with Malcom. Actually showed very good takedown defense in the first round, but as time went on, Malcom found his weaknesses with the trips on a single leg, and he just got put down multiple times. Contender Series fight was a little wild. Again, his hands are pretty good, but I think Armen's going to be a step ahead with his kicking game. His kicking game's going to make the difference here. Leg kicks, body kicks, using that length. I know he's got a reach disadvantage, but Petrosyan should be able to win 2 rounds, but it's going to be a dicey decision. Okay, for our next fight, we have Abubakar Nurmagomedov versus Gadzhi Omargadzhiev. This fight, we're looking at Gadzhiev coming down in weight from his 185 debut. I think Borralho actually made Gadzhi look really small in his matchup. I mean, you remember that fight? He got absolutely ragdolled by Borralho the whole time, and he was the favorite going into that matchup on his UFC debut. But overall, I think I like what I see a little bit more from Nurmagomedov, and especially with Gadzhi coming down in weight here, Abubakar already has a great jab and controls range really well and doesn't step into dangerous shots. I think he's going to have a big speed advantage in a big cage. I don't think he's going to use his wrestling. I don't think he's going to need to, and it's just not even worth it. Gadzhi has better submission skills, in my opinion, but Nurmagomedov's going to have better control here. And I think we're going to see a decision. I mean, do you see that for this fight?
Yeah, I wonder what the odds would be for that to go the distance. But yeah, I do see this fight going the distance, and I would probably bet on it, depending on what the line is.
Yeah, I mean, in the Jared Gooden fight, he had many opportunities to finish Gooden, who has horrible head movement. He just kind of picked him apart at range. David Zawanda, he was winning the fight until almost like a Paul Craig-like snapped up triangle got him. And overall, doesn't have the best resume, but he has some time off here from his last performance. Could make a lot of improvements. And like I said, a big thing I see from this card is fighters being able to move backwards and use their jabs and use their distance range management and their speed against some of these bigger, slower fighters. So I like Nurmagomedov here to find the decision. Okay, next fight we have is Volkan Oezdemir versus Nikita Krylov. Man, I really like Nikita Krylov, and I'm picking him here. In my opinion, I just see Krylov as the more dangerous fighter with more options in this fight. Volkan Oezdemir has fought a style for the last 2 or 3 years where he just decided he's going to be a counterpuncher, and I don't think he's here to really move forward in the division. I don't think he's hungry, and obviously he got kind of forced into action with Jiri Prochazka, but in many of these fights, he kind of just sits back and waits for his opponents to come to him. I mean, that Paul Craig fight was god-awful. Paul Craig should have gotten it finished multiple times in that fight, but he's unwilling to even throw punches at Paul Craig on the feet because he didn't want to get taken down.
Yeah, that fight was brutal to watch.
Yeah, and on Nikita Krylov's side, the Gustafsson KO, I won't give him too much credit, but it still was a good KO.
A lot of people picked Gustafsson in that fight, too.
Yeah, I mean, it was an old guy. He's a little bit washed, but like Krylov still has good short power, which I think a lot of people talk about. I mean, he was beating the shit out of Paul Craig before that triangle choke. Kind of similar to what we were saying about the Nurmagomedov fight. It's a thrown-up submission that's hard to get out of. And this guy, Ankalaev, got caught in one by Paul Craig, too. And he got in a good 3-round fight with Ankalaev where he won the first round. Oezdemir does have very good takedown defense. He has a really high percentage, but Krylov is also, I think, a way better wrestler here. And if the fight does go to the ground, he's going to have the advantage. And I like him to find a knockout. I think he's got heavy hands, and he's got a lot of intent behind his punches. I'm liking a round 1 knockout here for Krylov. You like that?
I like it. Yes, sir.
I do have a bet on him. Yeah, and I think a lot of people doubt his ability. Maybe his line will come down, but I think he should be a slightly bigger favorite. Krylov, KO round 1. Okay, for this fight, we have Muhammad Mokaev versus Malcom Gordan, and what is, in my opinion, the easiest pick of the night. I don't know how Malcom Gordan will be able to deal with Mokaev's wrestling, and I see a pretty quick submission, in my opinion, or even a knockout. I mean, he's going to have Malcom Gordan thinking about his hands, or as a submission, his grappling, and he might hit him with the hands. So I see this as a pretty easy fight. Malcom Gordan doesn't really do anything that well. He kind of beats fighters who aren't really on that level. Francisco Figueiredo, and has some losses, Amir Albazi and Sumaderji, but Mokaev was so dominant even in his last fight, considering he did technically no damage, but I mean, that level of control is really high level to stay on someone's hips for 15 minutes straight and take them down. So
he was relentless with it too, for all 3 rounds. Which, I mean, we haven't seen too much 3-round action from him, because he usually ends it early, but I mean, it was good to see him do that for all 3 rounds. And
Charles Johnson was we knew he had a good get-up game before that fight, and he was in a scramble a lot, so it's like expected. I think Malcom Gordan will feel that pressure, and he'll break, so submission feels pretty good here.
Yeah, I like that as well.
Next matchup is Makhmud Muradov versus Caio Borralho. Caio has shown complete dominance so far, and it's hard to pick against this guy, and especially against Muradov, who slows down. I like a finish here for Borralho, and I'm thinking a submission in round 2. Do you like that?
Yeah, I could go with that. I could see a decision here as well, where he just fights the submission the entire time and just controls Borralho, just controls him for all 3 rounds.
I'm just thinking if Gerald Meerschaert, who does have good submissions, but not as good control on the ground, I think that at some point he'll find that submission. And let's talk about Muradov. He does have very good striking. He's really lengthy with his striking. He throws very few straight punches, strong overhands, and in this Andrew Sanchez fight, I mean, that's a really good fight to watch for film. He gets clipped a lot in that fight himself, but also delivers really damaging blows to Andrew Sanchez. And I just think Borralho's not going to be in range, or it's me grappling where he can't really get hit by those. For the Gerald Meerschaert fight, he was tagging him up a ton in the first round. I mean, it could have been easily over just from standing TKO, but Gerald pushed through. Muradov got a little bit tired from trying to finish him, and then Meerschaert put the pressure on him, hit him with a bunch of left hands, and that's also against a southpaw, and Borralho's a southpaw here, so I think also he could get his striking going on Muradov as well. Also, if you're looking at these intangible, like the height here, that's off. They're the same height. Borralho, very good at managing distance and then stepping in with the left hand. If you watch this Petrosyan fight, he very rarely is in the pocket. He's either out of the pocket, steps in and hesitates, and then throws, or he's on you for a takedown. There's not really much in between. I really like his game here, and I think a submission feels right. But
yeah, I like Borralho a lot. I like betting on him too. I think he's what you want to see when you're betting on someone, where you just control him for the entire time and don't do anything.
At times it might not be the most entertaining fight, but from a betting perspective, it's you know your money's pretty secure. So, yeah, Caio Borralho, submission round 2. Okay, for the next fight, we have Zubaira Tukhgov versus Lucas Almeida. Not even sure if I said that first name right. So for this one, I'm kind of following the same trend that I followed with the Nurmagomedov fight. I think that Zubaira here is the smaller fighter, but also the faster, better jab, a little bit more technical than Lucas Almeida, but man, this one's going to be dangerous as well. I'm putting out decision already. I don't really see a knockout. If I had to describe Zubaira's game, it's risk-aversive, and he's going to be in a big cage here, and he works back out of range really well. Lucas Almeida's whole game is reckless. It's forward, and I mean, I like it. Hey, I like watching it, but I just don't think he gets it done here versus Zubaira.
Yeah, and you see Zubaira, I mean, he has a lot of close fights. He had a unanimous decision with Ramos in his last fight, and then split decision with Dawoodu, and then a draw, split decision with Lerone Murphy, split decision loss against Moicano, and then another one before that as well.
Right.
2015, so. He
really doesn't have, like, the best resume, because he also doesn't put it on people and finish people in the same way. He did put a lot of strikes on Ricardo Ramos, but Lucas Almeida, you know, his last KO against Mike Trizano was really good, but Mike Trizano also pulled the same mistake twice. He got knocked down by a fake right hand, and then it was followed up by a left hook. It was done twice in the fight, and the first time it knocked him down, the second time it knocked him out. So, I don't see Zubaira engaging in a 2-strike combo from Almeida. It's me 1 and out, 1 and out, 1 and out. And Almeida, even with Daniel Zellhuber, who really struggled to even touch Trey Ogden that we just saw. I know this is MMA math and less important, but I don't think he's going to be able to hold up here to a decision. It could get dicey. I mean, if you're doing Lucas Almeida, it's probably by knockout. But I like Zubaira here by decision. Okay, next fight we have is Belal Muhammad versus Sean Brady. Remember the name? Do you remember the name?
Well, Muhammad is one of the... I think it is the most common name, so yeah, I do remember that name.
Okay, well, surprisingly, not really. No one's really that much of a fan of Belal Muhammad, but I think he wins this fight, and I think he wins this fight by decision because that's the only way he wins. And we're gonna remember this nap. But Sean Brady is a little bit overrated in my opinion. I know his jiu-jitsu is extremely good, and he's a massive guy for 170, but didn't really look that great in his last Michael Chiesa fight. And he goes to decision quite a bit for how big he is and how his grappling should be getting on people's necks constantly. And I don't think Belal's going to let himself get taken down here. In a big cage, we just saw Belal circle the cage against Luque for 25 minutes. That's all he did. And then he took a shot at a takedown every once in a while. This is in a bigger cage. And he's going to do the same exact thing. He's going to pump a jab on Sean Brady, step into range every once in a while, a couple leg kicks, and he's going to win at least 3 rounds. I'm pretty confident about that. Or at least 2 rounds, sorry. Pretty confident about that. Brady's style doesn't really have a lot of damage involved with it. It's mostly, does he get the submission, or does his control time lead him to a decision?
I think the grappling could cancel each other out, and then I would lean Muhammad in the striking department.
Exactly.
Which feels weird to say.
Well,
I should not be saying that.
Everyone's doubting him, and it's like the same thing where it's like we've said it before, like the Charles Oliveira effect. You keep on doubting him, and he'll keep winning, and it feels like Muhammad's just going to keep doing that here. So hopefully he wears safety glasses so he doesn't have an eye poke or some shit. And get some nasty
he's really
pink
smart
eye.
with He's really smart with his takedown timing and it was as well. Which it was like in the Luque fight, he would circle the cage for a couple minutes,
Right.
and then when Luque wasn't expecting it, then he'd go for a takedown. He wasn't like super reliant on the takedown.
Right. He shoots for the takedown at like the 2 minute, a minute 30 marker when he can like get the last bit of control time to confirm the round and not get tired. And
Right.
And, like, I don't think he's going to do that in this fight, but if it just comes down to striking, man, it's a split decision toss-up, or it's just 2 rounds, or maybe he takes all 3. I don't see him getting submitted here, so Belal Muhammad...
Yeah, I think Sean's only way of winning would be a submission, and I don't see that happening here. So
yeah, I'm going to say, remember the decision, Belal Muhammad, yeah. Okay, next fight we have is Katlyn Chookagian versus Maignan Fiorot. A lot of questions people had whether Katlyn won her last fight. I'm not even going to talk about what my thoughts were. It's whatever, it's a chick fight. But she has that simple style. It's kind of funny that Belal Muhammad remember the decision, and then blonde fighter who gets only decisions are back-to-back, you know. But Katlyn's game... fight at range, make noises to make it seem like she's hitting her opponent. Yeah! You know, stuff like that. Maignan Fiorot, on the other hand, I just think he's going to be the more damaging striker here. She uses more weapons, too. She uses a side kick to the body. I think a little bit sharper striking as well. She's giving up
I think it can be tough for Chookagian to get into range with Fiorot, always throwing out those body kicks. You saw it in her last fight against Maya. I mean, Maya struggled to find the striking range just from those long body kicks.
And you remember just even from that last fight with Katlyn Chookagian, she got thrown from a headlock multiple times from Amanda Ribas, and she usually defends takedowns because she's so much bigger than her opponents. Just height-wise, it's hard to get her center of gravity under control. But for Maignan Fiorot, she could easily take this fight to the ground as well and lead it to a decision. I think she's going to lead both categories here, striking and grappling. And she cuts a lot of weight. I would assume she'll make weight, but like compared to Chookagian, she's probably going to have like a 10-pound advantage at fight time. So, yeah, Maignan Fiorot by decision. You like that?
Sir.
Okay, for the next fight, we have Benny Dariush versus Mateusz Gamrot. This is going to be a competitive fight, and the way I see it is I think that Beneil Dariush has a puncher's chance here, and I think that Gamrot is going to be looking at winning a decision. Do you like that?
Yeah, I think Gamrot does win the decision here. I think it'll be a very competitive fight as well, but I do see Gamrot winning at least 2 rounds here.
I mean, yeah, it's Dariush has a very slow kind of striking style. I mean, you've seen it be successful with Drakkar Klose, with that crazy knockout. But his coordination really isn't that great, but he does have that unorthodox power. And we were talking about this yesterday, but, didn't you say that Dariush had like a bad knee injury or something, too?
I think it's his foot injury.
Yeah, which could affect
remember,
training.
he was supposed to fight Islam.
Right.
I think that's why he pulled out of that fight.
And he's had a multiple injuries recently, too. So, like, it could affect his training. It could cause a lot of problems for, I don't know, the stand-up portion of this fight. So, talking more about Benny Dariush, his Scott Holtzman knockout was really impressive, but also not at the highest level here in the UFC. Really showed his scrambling and wrestling ability with Diego Ferreira, who is also a great jiu-jitsu scrambler. And then I think he won that one unanimous. It was a while ago, I can't remember perfectly. But then Tony Ferguson, he just completely controlled with the grappling, which many others have done. So it's kind of hard to fully justify his grappling here against Gamrot. Gamrot in that Sarukian fight, I mean, we remember that. It was kind of a heartbreaking... I thought Sarukian won the fight, but it was real close still. But Gamrot controlled the grappling for the last 2 rounds, which led to Gamrot finding that decision. And he doesn't have the most damaging style. His weapons aren't the greatest. His wrestling is his main weapon. Other than that, his jab's okay, his straight's okay, but his striking still needs more to it, because Tsarukyan hurt him to the body with body kicks and was able to diversify a lot of his striking there. I don't see Beneil taking down Gamrot, because we just saw Tsarukyan fail to so many times in that fight. And I do see Gamrot finding chances on Dariush, but Dariush could make the scrambles very interesting. I don't know. I feel like this is going to be a closer fight than people think still, but I think that it's a puncher's chance for Dariush, and Gamrot should be able to win 2 rounds. So,
yep,
yeah.
I completely agree.
All right. Okay, a very anticipated fight here in the bantamweight division. We have Petr Yan facing the Sugar Show, Sean O'Malley. I know a lot of people's opinions vary on Sean O'Malley, but I do think he stands a chance in this fight, but I won't pick him. We're going with Petr Yan. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, of course Sean has a shot, especially with how slow Petr Yan starts. Like, kind of like Chito Vera in that aspect, where he normally loses that first round. So, I mean, if Sean wins the first round, and I mean, it could be a close second round, and if he steals that one, he could win. But yeah, I mean, Petr Yan should win this fight just all around.
Right.
I think Sean O'Malley's range will probably be the biggest aspect for him if he's going to win this fight.
Right. In that first round of the Petr Yan Aljamain Sterling fight, I know we're going to talk more about Aljo in a second, but I do believe Aljo won that first round when I rewatched it. Petr didn't close the distance, didn't get enough strikes in that first round, and you just can't do that in a 3-round fight here. So there's a real scare. And then again, you just watched Sean O'Malley be in a boring-ass fight with Pedro Munoz, where in the first round, I think Sean maybe threw a total of 5 strikes, and Pedro threw a bunch of leg kicks, and Sean checked a lot of them. But
yeah, I don't think Pedro even threw a punch in that first round, and he's on 2 of the judges' scorecards. He won that.
Right. It was a really horrible first round, and it's a really, obviously everyone knows, a very strange step up in competition when you didn't even win the fight. I mean, if the people he's beating, if Petr Yan was in the same cage as these people, they would be, like, if Chris Matinho would be dead in the first round if he faced Petr Yan. Like, fact. And I just think it's going to be really hard for Sean, who fights similar to Corey Sandhagen, to take total control of a striking match here when Petr Yan outstruck Corey Sandhagen. But again, the 3-round fight makes it all weird here. And in my opinion, I don't know if you view it exactly the same way I do, but Petr should take this fight to the ground as soon as possible, because
yeah, we've never really seen O'Malley on the mat before.
Right, and we've seen Petr Yan trip Aljamain Sterling a million times, take down Jose Aldo, take down, I think he knocked down more Uriah Faber, but he does a lot of great ground and pound. I don't really know exactly what Sean's full range is. His coaches, they say he's got amazing jiu-jitsu, but everyone's coach is going to say that. But like, Petr should be able to ground and pound him out. I'm thinking a knockout here. I mean, do you have a round that you like? I'm thinking 2 or 3, but
I was probably leaning a decision for Petr Yan, but knockout could do.
I'm going to stick with knockout. I think it's just going to be accumulation of strikes here on the ground. I'm going to say round 2, but if he doesn't take it to the ground, I mean, if he has that low fight IQ moment, I know he's a pure striker. He's from Tiger Muay Thai, and all those guys are really good, but the fact that Sean could just move around the cage for 2 of the rounds and win them is scary here for a minus 300 favorite. And yeah, I hope Petr takes him down. I don't have any problems with Sean O'Malley. I know a lot of people hate him, but I like Petr Yan. I still think he's the best at the weight class, even though technically I do think he lost his last fight. But yeah, I'm taking...
Yeah, I mean, this fight doesn't really hurt O'Malley's stock at all. I mean, if he loses, he's going up against the number one contender.
Exactly.
I mean, if Yan loses, I mean, that really hurts his stock.
You stand to lose everything, but I respect Yan because most people wouldn't take this matchup, so...
Yeah, no one would.
But yeah, I like Petr Yan doing the stream on the scales. And then beating Sean O'Malley. Okay, for the co-main event, the bantamweight belt, we have the Clown versus the Snake. We have Aljamain Sterling versus TJ Dillashaw. The little snake in the grass. This is a really hard fight to call. Like I just said in the last one, Aljo, I do think, won that last fight. I mean, obviously the problem most people have with him, even with that last fight, is that he looked so bad in rounds 4 and 5, and just did that thing where he puts his head on the ground to be kneed practically, or kicked in the head, to avoid strikes. And he looks like the much worse fighter down the stretch. But he does win rounds, and I think he's getting smarter in a way, if that's reasonable. And I think Aljo gets this here. What do you think?
I do see him winning this fight. I mean, Dillashaw's comeback fight was arguably a loss there against Corey Sandhagen. I think I had that as a loss for Dillashaw.
I did as well.
Yeah, I just see Aljo at least stealing 3 rounds in this fight. I'm not really looking forward to this fight, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard one because, like, this division is so great, but the two people fighting for the belt are so disliked. I mean, I just hope for good action in this one, but Aljo, I know he gets a lot of shit. Obviously, Petr Yan smashed him in the first fight until the illegal knee, but the first 2 rounds he actually did very well. Front kicks, high volume, which led to him getting tired. And I think he's going to use less takedowns in this fight and use more of a stand-up.
Or at least time to take takedowns better and not force them.
Right. And something that he did in the second fight with Petr Yan is he did, I don't know what you'd call it, but fake takedowns with his arm touching Piotr's knee. It's like a check to make Petr fling his hips back, and then it gave Sterling chances to strike without getting hit back. And he did a really good job at implementing that, but TJ's me the smaller fighter here, not quite as strong. He did almost 0 damage in his last fight against Corey Sandhagen, following a 2-year layoff. And who knows if this boy's on the roids? Who knows if this dude's nipples are gonna be fucking flung out? Because
maybe he'll have a Izzy Adesanya and a gyno nipple.
I mean, he does have like tits because of the gyno. But I don't know. It's hard to say exactly how this fight plays out, but I think the higher volume from Sterling for 3 rounds, and even in that last fight too with Petr, we saw him take Piotr's back for 2 of the rounds. If that happens in this Dillashaw fight, those are just secured away rounds for Sterling. So
he's so good at holding the back and
right
body lock.
And Dillashaw's not taking his back, I don't think, at all. So I mean, he might out-wrestle him at certain moments, but I like Sterling here for a decision. Again, dicey fight. Hard to bet anyone here or bet anything, to be honest.
I like the over in this one. I don't know if that line is set at all. I'd assume it's probably juiced a bit.
It's out on FanDuel, but I haven't looked. But
yeah, it's probably juiced. I do like the over in this one as well.
It's heel versus heel, and hopefully the Clown wins. So, okay, for the main event, and honestly, the most anticipated fight I've felt since the Khamzat Gilbert fight. So excited for this one. I mean, everyone is, and I'll let you just say the pick here.
Yes, I am going with the Russian Just kidding. I'm going with Charles Oliveira, of course. The champion has a name, and it's Charles Oliveira.
The champion has a name. Dubrans! Come on now. So, I mean, it's hard to deny a man his belt, doesn't technically have the belt, but his belt, over and over and over again. I know the Makhachevs have crazy wrestling, and I totally understand why Islam's the favorite. I know a lot of people are like, oh, he's going to out-wrestle him. Like, yeah,
it's a completely different style.
Exactly. I completely understand that could happen, too. But this is also probably the strongest opponent he's faced to date. Charles cuts a really big amount of weight to get to this weight class, and this is also the only fighter in the top. He's the only fighter in the top 15 that he's faced is Dan Hooker, and Dan Hooker doesn't fight in this division anymore. And Thiago Moises is probably his next most credible win.
Sarukin's probably his most credible win, who was on short notice.
Right, but
like a day's notice.
At the time, it's hard to deny Islam's ability, and I'll talk about what I think about Islam. In this fight, if he doesn't get to use his legs in his jiu-jitsu, it's over. Which the Russians are so good at taking away the guys with jiu-jitsu, their legs away, and Charles will lose all leverage for a submission if it's a guillotine, if it's a triangle choke. I mean, he's going to lose all those options, but on every single round, he's going to have the option to stand up if we go 5 rounds. And Charles will have the puncher's chance. And I think what we're going to see is him throwing a lot of front kicks, a lot of things to make Islam think about getting hit by a shot coming up the middle. And in a big cage, too, Charles is going to have the option to circle the big cage or pressure Islam, because Islam's never been put in the back foot before. And I'm thinking a knockout for round 1, but that's my thoughts for Oliveira and how he gets it done.
I think Oliveira can sneak a left hook or a right hook in there when Islam's trying to, feel the range. I think Charles can easily flash knock him down like that and either ground and pound or find a club and sub.
And he's so good in the clinch. I mean, both these guys are great in the clinch. The danger for Charles is, if we look at the last fight, Charles had the clinch with Justin Gadzhi where he lined up the right hand directly afterwards. Islam, though, will trip people from their clinch position, so if Oliveira's going to use knees in the clinch position, he could get his legs chopped out from under him and go straight into side control on Oliveira, so that's a scare. But I gotta think Oliveira's team's thinking of all this stuff. Both guys seem to have unreal cardio, too. Charles doesn't seem to slow down, even though all of his fights are finishing in the first round. I don't know. I just think he finds it. I mean, it could be a step-in knee. He versus Justin Gadzhi, you saw him do a flying front kick, which touched Justin's face but didn't get him clean. Like you said, the left hook. He got so many weapons here. Islam's weapons on the feet are going for a takedown, pretty much, or faking a takedown and throwing an overhand, which he's knocked someone out with before. But this is real tough. Islam's last fight, Bobby Green shelled up. I mean, short notice. Dan Hooker, short notice. Thiago Moises actually took him down a couple times. Took Islam down, I believe, twice, but then got reversed. Charles here, I mean, he might shoot a takedown on Islam because he won't be expecting it. And that could totally draw him off guard. Winning against Drew Dober and Davi Ramos, but again, like you said, Sarukian was his biggest win, in which he lost a round in too.
And Sarukian came in on short notice as well in that fight.
Right. Oliveira, I mean, Gadzhi, killer. Poirier, killer. And I'm not doubting that Islam could beat a lot of these guys too. I think actually Michael Chandler would be a tough matchup for Islam, but Michael Chandler, Tony Ferguson before he got completely decimated by everyone, Kevin Lee, I mean, He's just got a crazy resume. He's got all the submissions. I think that Islam is going to be so protected from the guillotine. I don't think the guillotine is going to happen off a direct takedown. Hopefully, Oliveira can stay off the cage, strike, knock out Islam, and boom. That's the predictions. We're dyeing our hair. We're dyeing our hair blonde.
And Oliveira is in enemy territory again.
Right. He just fought in Arizona for Justin Gaethje's, and now he traveled across the world. And
I want Oliveira to win. I want him to win, and then fight in Brazil. I think that would be ideally what I would want to happen.
Right. It's honestly a scare too. The environmental difference from going from Brazil, which might be a lot more humid of a place, to Abu Dhabi, which is by the ocean, right? But I think it's a lot more dry in general. So you might see a different cardio for these guys. I've noticed before, just from the heat, bigger fighters slow down over there. But, man, Do Bronx, keep doubting him. Keep doubting him and he'll show up. And I'm not saying Islam is a slump or a chump or whatever, but I think...
And it's a completely different style matchup than what Oliveira's faced in the past 3 fights or whatever.
Exactly. And I just can't wait for it. Everybody's so excited. So, all right. We'll stop talking about this now. Do Bronx, Caio, round 1. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Leave a like. Comment who you think wins these fights. We might even start a comment chain for Team Oliveira, Team Makhachev. But check out the Instagram for the bets that came. I already have like 4 bets out for what we had for 280 about a week ago. Bets video will come out on hopefully Wednesday or Thursday, before the fight card. And anything else from you?
Enjoy them. Enjoy the fights.
Yes, sir. Best card of the year. Peace.
I know. It doesn't matter from the trenches. I'm built like this. The aunt down to me said I couldn't do it. The aunt said I couldn't